Shalom, family, and to all the righteous souls on the earth. It is time to unite and destroy poverty with a comprehensive plan. With that being said, welcome to the introduction and making of Basora Nation. What exactly is Basora Nation? Basora Nation is a Hebrew Moorish private civic trust, and it will evolve into a de jure nationalization. When our nation was destroyed indefinitely by Rome in 70 AD, we held on to our identity of our consanguinity, but ceased from being a country due to the scattering of our people. After the 6th century, when Rome went into the Dark Ages, we joined forces slowly in the 8th century with the Ishmaelites, creating the Moroccan Empire. We ruled in Spain and other parts of Europe and had dominion in other territories like Africa, Asia, and the Americas being our heartland. During these several centuries, during the reign of this empire, we were one body politic known as the Moors and were classified as such from thence. As a result, we are Moorish in contemporary times due to our ancestors' alliance and adopting a nationality associated with the empire we created. There were international treaties that was made amongst the Christian and Moorish powers that still remain to this day. And we must understand this fact in order to properly make our birthright claim back to the land of the Americas and to enforce said international treaties that has been breached by the Christian regime. Wherefore, we can be a unified body politic once again of all 9 ether melanated Afro-Americans who desire peace, love, truth, joy, liberty, justice, and a pursuit of purpose. As I have stated before, since the counterintelligence program initiated by the FBI of the United States, the Afro community was completely destroyed politically, spiritually, physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and economically. Not to mention the 400-year plus affliction of evil. Our time is served, and now it is time to apply the knowledge that we have learned over the past several years of this reawakening and come together as a nation in trust, okay? How do we do that? The answer is pretty simple. All nations are nothing but a declaration of trust on the land. In legal terms, these principles derive from trust law. Trust law deals with a trust, which is an agreement or contract, and in this trust, we call the contract the indentured agreement, which sets the rules, regulations, policies of the trust, and which we know today as a constitution of a country. These elements govern the trust. The beneficiaries of the trust are called the citizens or the nationals of that land where that trust was created. The trust is what establishes the culture, behavior, and tradition of the people, also known as the beneficiaries. Now, the trustees of that trust are what we call today your public servants or governmental officials that are responsible of properly handling the funding that is poured into the trust for the beneficiaries / nationals / citizens, okay? With a trust, we will guarantee that all parties involved will do their job accordingly based off the rules outlined in the trust agreement. And if one does not honor their duty, then they are held liable and have to become subjected to the consequences that are expressed in the trust agreement. So how do we start? Well, the good news is I have already written out the entire Declaration of our Independence and the trust agreement, which will be our Constitution. All of you will have an opportunity to review, study, and share it. Some of you are going to also have the pleasure of being a trustee or some official member of the body, and it will be extremely rewarding. But before we can start anything, we must understand, first acknowledge, and know where we come from. So that way we know where we're going while establishing this trust, okay? It is well documented and absolute fact that the melanated Afro-American people, including that of the Afro-Latinos, consanguinity or aka bloodline, are the remnant seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, also known as the true children of Yashar'al or Israel, the Hebrews. Now, this does not exclude many of our brothers and sisters who are the descendants from the 12 tribes that are in other parts of the earth, but right now we are just focused on the souls that are in the land of the Americas, okay? Some brothers and sisters here make their bloodline claim to Egypt, aka Mitzrayim, ancient Assyrians, and other ancient descendants of Noah's sons. There is some truth to that when you analyze the ancient text carefully. However, we are one for the most part, and we need to act as such. Majority of us are the chosen seed from Yashar'al, and to some degree have intermixed with some of these other ancient ancestors. Understanding these facts, we are able to look into the future, understanding that there are prophecies that are associated to our bloodline and what we need to be doing in order to prepare for those prophecies to be fulfilled. Now, right now, I'm not going to go into great detail of those prophecies due to the fact that we will be going more in depth during the live events and not so much in the videos. I want to try to get straight to the point as quick as possible on how we apply step by step, coming together in harmony with one another in true love, respect, peace, accountability, and a sense of purpose from the least to the greatest. But before we can do that, we have to address some basic issues amongst our community that deals with accountability. Okay, so everybody that will be part of this body will benefit greatly, and those who are not part of the body will witness the righteousness and love pouring out in our communities, and they will be compelled to join because it will be contagious, viral, loud, and magnetic. Now that we know who we are and what we can expect, we have to also understand, how did we get here? We have become so divided, so destroyed due to our deliberate ignorance and from being attacked by a particular people who have demonstrated perpetual hatred for us in our posterity. I want to stress that the hatred is not caused by the color of our skin per se, but it is caused by the fact that we have a birthright claim to the most beautiful land on the face of the earth, and that is the land of the Americas. Because this is the land of Shem's portion, and we have received the divine inheritance of the entire earth, and for all nations to be subjected under our righteous rulership and dominion forever. These facts are some of the reasons that cause our people to be attacked from many tongues and nations in an attempt to deny the prophecy from being fulfilled through their jealousy. How could it be that we, as a dominant bloodline at one point in time, was the most dominant force on the earth in rulership, then becoming the lowest grades of the earth, reflecting that of peasants? The truth is, when we were lords of the earth and ruling the entire earth, we established a divine trust with the creator of heaven and earth. This is what we call the covenant that was made in Mount Sinai. This divine trust we made with the creator dealt with us subscribing to laws and ordinances that will keep earth and all other nations in a perpetual balance for what is good by force and by love. We were made divine trustees to guard and be good stewards of the divine law and knowledge on earth, and to teach and enforce it to all nations who have not received the oracles for it was good. However, we misappropriated the divine trust, and when trustees misappropriate the trust, they must be held liable according to the terms of the trust agreement. Now, these terms were laid out very clearly in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 through 68. Now, the terms are expressed all throughout Torah, which was our constitution, but it does a great job in expounding on a big part of it in Deuteronomy 28. Many of our people are already waking up to these facts every day and every minute and hour, so I won't go into detail because we have many of our other brothers and sisters out there demonstrating these facts, plus the events leading up to the making of the set-apart nation will go in more depth as well. Now that we understand how we got such a low position, we can now start to focus on where we are going and how to prepare for that. Many of the prophecies that are still to come will not manifest with us divided in this current state. We must return to our ancient path and begin self-governance like our forefathers to be in a position to take back our dominion. How do we do this? We can begin to do this by understanding our current disposition. We are divided by three major political groups in our communities. Yes, I said political groups because religion is connected to political science, and our ignorance is why we are not understanding this fact, okay? One group of our people in this land are Christians. The other group we have are the diverse Hebrew assemblies. Last but not least, the other group are Moors and the Nation of Islam. These two are a little distinct from one another because many of the Moors do not subscribe to the religious aspect of the Islamic faith, but they take more of a political and scientific philosophy of being called a Muslim. However, both assemblies have similar understanding dealing with the truth and knowledge. And so they're one and the same, in my opinion. One thing I know about all groups is they all have their respective strength and they all have a place where they lack. For example, the Christians have a strong spirit, but they lack truth and knowledge. The diverse Hebrew assemblies have a strong sense of spirit and truth, but lack knowledge. The Nation of Islam and the Moors have a strong sense of knowledge and truth, but lack spirit. In each respective group, there are exceptions to this rule. However, I'm referring to them as a whole, not individually. When I say knowledge, I'm referring to applied science, understanding true political history, jurisprudence, political science that are utilized for growth and development of a people secularly. When I say spirit, I am referring to the exaltation, reverence, and gratitude towards the Creator and having a full conscious understanding of the supernatural omnipotence. As a result, they have divine insight in prophecy, spiritual discernment, and faith. They carry the supernatural abilities to do things that goes above and beyond man's knowledge and capabilities with his technologies and applied sciences that we know of today when we put our trust in the Creator. When I say truth, I am referring to uncovering many lies that has been taught throughout the centuries in regard to our true history, our true nature, our true self. With that being said, Basora Nation adopts all strengths and will lack nothing. This nation will be complete with knowledge, spirit, and truth. Furthermore, this nation will establish a smoke tank, also known as a think tank. Smoke tank is an acronym, sorting meticulously, obtaining knowledge excellence, thinking, analyzing, nurturing knowledge. This will be the centerfold for settling all disagreements among political groups, intellectuals, scholars, and theologians who likes the idea of what Basora Nation will be demonstrating, but may be hesitant in joining due to certain doctrines of dogma. Basora Nation will not tolerate amongst the respected individuals and political groups of Afro-Americans and will not let such dogmatic doctrines be adopted amongst the beneficiaries or within the actual structure of the nation. This will be paramount in us establishing the pure truth. That way we may edify the people along the way. So if you stand on truth, great. I mean, by all means, you could present that if you claim that you understand the truth. Okay? Basora Nation will strive to the fullest extent possible in establishing perfection, complete understanding, and sound philosophy. This is absolutely necessary because the truth is what makes us free, not belief. The truth means to know. Believing has the ability to put someone in a strong delusion. As a result, Basora Nation will be very careful in what we believe, for we know that there is a thin line between the supernatural and a strong delusion. We also know, and in order to perform the supernatural abilities, one must exercise the power of belief, for believing is one of the supernatural powers. I know, it's paradoxical. We are in an age where belief has now become secondary to that in which we know to be true. Therefore, when it comes to belief, Basora Nation will be meticulous in what we believe and will believe what we cannot absolutely prove without a shadow of doubt, based off the principles of philosophy. There are some beliefs among Afro-Americans that are mundane and they do not need to be entertained or given any attention because it's not a threat that will cause someone to err in regards to understanding prophecy, science, or true history. On the other hand, though, there are some beliefs that need to be addressed regarding prophecy, science, our true culture, and true history. For example, some believers in all three groups may subscribe to the belief the ancient land of the nation of Israel is located somewhere in Africa or the so-called Middle East. Others subscribe to the belief that it is located in the Americas. No matter what one group believes, there is an answer that is absolute truth, and it will take away the need of believing no more. This is one of the many topics that must be addressed in the smoke tank to further understand prophecy, history, and satisfying truth. The smoke tank will be a powerful environment for many diverse groups of intellectuals to come together and truly get down to the bottom of the absolute truth without any vain debates that does not edify the people. It would also be an environment that will promote grand ideas to be exchanged for creative projects that will benefit the beneficiaries and the Afro-American communities across the continent and perhaps even the world. This attribute will undoubtedly draw everyone from diverse groups to Basora Nation who really cares for the truth and who cares for what is good. Also, indirectly, this will expose and shame those who pretend they're for the truth and good, but are really ravenous wolves seeking who they can devour with their deception and political agenda. Any Christian ministry leaders, Moorish Science Temple leaders, Hebrew Assembly leaders, or Islamic temple leaders and their followers that are set up in our communities across the nation are welcome to join Basora Nation as long as they consent to Basora Nation decrees outlined in the Constitution and allow their brick and mortar organizations to be part of and connected to the community centers that will be established by Basora throughout our communities abroad for the restoration and uplifting of our ruined communities. If any organization aforesaid does not wish to participate in the project, they have the right to do so. But it will be a sign for many of our people in our community to witness other organizations' conscious decision to go in the opposite direction to what is good, and those witnesses shall come to their own conclusion as to why. A very important attribute we will exercise is getting rid of our ego and pride amongst our men and our women. Many of our people are puffed up in knowledge, self-worth, and refuse to be open for correction because of pride, a political agenda, and an obstinate heart, and perhaps looking foolish among their followers. Now, I fell into this trap in the beginning of my awakening, and I was shamed real quick. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The truth never holds back from being challenged, so there's no need for pride. Let truth stand. One of the most critical attributes we will adopt undoubtedly and hold with all of our soul is accountability. Now, this accountability is going to be held from our men and from our women. We must both take accountability for our actions towards each other in order to fix the state we are currently facing. The battle of the sexes, gender wars, and negative relationship podcast stops here in Basora Nation. Let's begin with our men first. To all the fellow brothers out there, what has transpired from the beginning of time was all of our fault. The Most High charged us to be a reflection of Him on all levels, and we misappropriated our divine trust and position for vanity. Remember that all covenants were made with the children of men, starting with Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who was our direct forefathers. The Most High did not make a covenant with Eve, Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel. Therefore, from the beginning, this is our mess that we need to clean up. It doesn't mean that our women are not to be held accountable for their actions, but the cleanup begins with us. And remembering what we did and understanding why our women are acting so wretched and out of order. We are out here calling ourselves gods, princes, kings, but really our reputation shows us that we were nothing but domestic dogs, tyrants, and demons, chasing vanity, doing everything that was the opposite of who the Heavenly Father is and what He represents. We take pride and glory in taking another man's wife, glorifying adultery, and promoting it in our music. We take pride and glory having sex with a woman innocent in her youth with a beautiful heart and amazing potential, but refusing to be responsible to honor her righteously as an exclusive woman, leaving her to be left with a scarred heart and eaten by the wolves, smashing and dashing, glorifying fornication. Woe to us for being demonic idiots. We are all guilty. We take glory in believing we have arrived at the top due to financial success and now think our ego and pride are justified, looking down on others because of riches and material possession. We as men have become despicable before the eyes of the Creator, chasing and creating vanity, committing spiritual fornication, abominations, and spiritual adultery. So, since we are gods, the Most High has gave us the same cup we tried to make Him drink and forced it down our throat. Everything that we did to the Father, He paid us back with our women as a collective doing the same thing to us. So as we sit here and complain about how our women are disobedient, lost, wretched, vain, evil, and how they are not to be trusted and shall be treated accordingly, well, so have we behaved as the children of men towards the Most High. We forget our doing and how we are a reflection of God. Therefore, what we did to Him and destroying His image, He gives it back to us through our women and allow their image to be destroyed, because it's a parallel principle that will never cease to exist. We want to be gods? This is our reward. It's natural divine law. Now, once we stop with our abominations, spiritual fornications, that means chasing things and creating things that are vain, that has no substance, it's purposeless, and get rid of our pride and replace that with true honor and love that reflects the true fatherhood, get back to restoring ourselves to the true reflection of the Creator, then maybe we can receive some favor from on high. Once we begin getting rid of all of our vanity and abominations and start applying the divine principles back into our lives and in our livelihood, then we can reclaim our godhood to be a true image and be a true son of God. After the divine principles are applied to enough of us men, what naturally starts to take place is our women are no longer able to feed off of our vanity because we no longer are inflating our ego and are not seduced by their promiscuous behavior because we have outgrown our lower self. Then they will be forced to face their shame and change as well. Now, for the men who are queers, listen up. Some of you are victims of child molestation, and that has affected your behavior and your adulthood. I'm sorry you had to go through that terrible experience. I don't know what that is like, nor do I want to know what that is like, but that does not give you an excuse to continue to live in a state that is absolutely against your masculine nature. If you are hearing this message, let this be forewarning. Many of you are talented, knowledgeable, and mentally sharp, and can contribute a lot of great value to Vasora Nation. But your talents, knowledge, and gifts have become perverted. It's worthless until you take back dominion over your godhood and throw away that effeminate spirit. Take back your nature, heal yourself, and get back in alignment with the Father and the masculine principle. You need to seek help from the Creator through sincere prayer. So bear your shame and change within and begin to follow divine masculine men who have the knowledge where they can help restore your masculinity to an optimum level and refrain from operating in that abominable state. We have the ability to choose, so there is no excuse. Rise up. Now, to you other queers, some of you are just absolutely in spiritual defiance, practicing satanic homosexual rituals for material gain, being used by the heathen to destroy your own people for your own personal gain. I don't know how you sleep at night knowing you are being paid to promote the emasculating agenda in an attempt to ruin your fellow brothers and young boys and young girls who are innocent souls. Woe to you volunteering to be devils. How can you be in such a defiant, abominable state and let the word of God come out of your mouth, play in church, or let alone send a prayer claiming to represent God's image? Woe to that. Selling your soul for vanity will not protect you when everything comes crumbling down on this earth. Being spiritually defiant has a different place of punishment for the wrath of the Creator. Do not gamble with your soul. Confess your abominations and bear your shame. Change your ways and be part of what is good, because it's not a game. Now, to the pedophile men out there, I have no mercy in my heart for you. Only the Most High can meet you there. It's already hard enough to bear witness of my brothers glorifying sodomy with one another, let alone a man touching and perverting a little boy or little girl. I cannot bear or tolerate that idea. A grown man touching my little ones in a detestable manner, that individual is dead to me. As adults, we are all born with moral compasses, and we know what's right and what's wrong. So when we make certain choices, we are inherently conscious of what we are doing, and as a result, we choose our own fate. Many of our men and women believe they will be able to live their life rich in abominations, perversions, doing whatever that pleases their flesh, and receive eternal forgiveness from the Creator. Living in this state willingly and consciously all the way to the grave, thinking to repent for your sins right before death, demonstrates an evil heart. This false ideology was brought by religion, and it is a demonic belief. This belief causes people to become spiritually lazy, slothful, and unaccountable. The truth is, some are innocently ignorant and will receive mercy. But then there are those that are completely aware and made aware, yet still are defiant and will receive no mercy but weeping and gnashing of the teeth or more. If you don't make a sacrifice now to do what is good, then you cannot be considered sacred to the Most High. Now it's your turn, ladies. To the women out there, most of you have lost your way and have completely forgotten who you are and what you're supposed to represent spiritually. Because you don't know who you are and you don't know the power you possess or what you're supposed to represent, the enemy have used your power against you. Woman, you are going to be one of two things. You are going to represent the Queen of Heaven on earth that was created by the Father's hand, whose name is wisdom, or you're going to be the devil's greatest weapon. Your nature is that of a child. You are supposed to represent all of the attributes of a child of God, and wisdom being your mother. You are supposed to aspire to be like her as you mature as a child of God. A child is soft-spoken. A woman is supposed to be soft-spoken. A child is precious in the eyes. A woman is supposed to be precious in the eyes. A child is vulnerable. A woman is vulnerable. A child needs guidance and instruction to what is good. A woman needs guidance and instruction on what is good. A child desperately needs love and protection. A woman desperately needs love and protection. When a child is left alone or abandoned, he or she will self-destruct. When a woman is left alone or abandoned, she also will self-destruct. You are not exempt from being subjected to the parallel principle. As the man, so is the woman. You forsook your way of reflecting to be like a child of God. Nevertheless, your attributes of a child still remains. Just as us men forsook our father's reputation in creating good, instead we created destruction for ourselves. Our attributes of creation remains the same. In the past 50 plus years, after the fall of the civil rights movement, our women delusion, pride, ego, selfishness has increased to a level that is unprecedented on earth. The heathen have planted deep seeds of incredible delusion that our ladies have emotionalized themselves with and do not want to let it go, which in return is going to be for your own shame. If our woman does not change and seek truth in its totality, many are going to bear their shame, as it is written in Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1. In that day, 7 women will cling to one man and say, we will provide our own clothes, our own food. Please just let us be called by your name and take away our disgrace. The degree of entitlement, selfishness, lack of respect for men, and ignorance of your existence is mind-boggling. Now, let's deal with the first degree of entitlement. Ladies, you need to understand that you are not entitled to anything. No man owes you anything, okay? You were created for men. Men were not created for you. However, the entitlement behavior suggests the idea men were created for the glory of women. The bastardized idea is failing by the minute, as you can see with all this negative podcast relationship with the nonsensical attitudes. You are made to be the glory of man. That is why there are more of you on the earth than there are men when it comes to our melanated people. The heathens have planted into your mind a perverted idea pertaining to women equal rights, part of the feminist movement, attempting to shatter the divine double standard. What's good for the man is not good for you. What's good for you is not good for man. Adopting these evil ideas has destroyed you and our men for believing such nonsense. We cannot be you, you cannot be us. Neither should any of us want to do such a thing, for there's divine benefits for women and there's divine benefits for men that both genders enjoy when receiving the gift of life. Remember the parallel principle. Man and woman are the children of God in heaven and on earth. But on earth, man is made to represent the image of God and women represent the children of God. God created heaven and earth and man to dwell in for his glory. He gave man dominion over the earth and told him to subdue it and to be a great steward or trustee over it all. Men were made as the beneficiaries of God's divine trust that he created. Men are the children of God on the universal scale. Then God created woman for the glory of man. So everything that the man creates on earth and in his private domain, he makes the woman his beneficiary to his creation. And she is to be a great stewardess and trustee over that man's creation and be joyful and happy for the gift of life because she is the beneficiary of all man's creation. For everything that she receives from a man is supposed to be good, just like everything that the man receives from God is good. Man cannot survive without the Most High, just as the woman cannot survive without man. Again, this is natural law, the parallel principle, also known as the principle of correspondence. This is divine. You cannot escape it. Now we understand the parallel principle between God, man, and woman. Now let's talk about the degree of selfishness within our women and how we look at that in the correct context, applying the natural divine principle. Selfishness in our women is predominantly derived from the indoctrination of monogamy that was introduced by the European colonizers, who did everything in their power to strip us from our history, culture, divine tradition, language, and understanding. Many of our women who are die-hard believers in monogamy do not know any history of their foremothers, nor have they studied what their foremothers' culture, tradition, or wisdom was about. But yet, they claim to know the ways of the Most High. Absolutely not. What drives the belief is selfish feelings that women possess based off the enjoyment of benefits monogamy has allowed them to experience. Therefore, they believe with their own understanding, one man and one woman was always the intended purpose for the creation of the Most High. This is an outright lie, and it could never be proven, not even in philosophy, because if the Most High God said he wanted something done a certain way, he would have made it so. And if he forbidden men to not take part multiple wives, he would have established that clear in his law. The Most High is not the author of confusion, neither are his ways ambiguous. That means that you can interpret it however you want. They are clear and straightforward. It's man and woman who have perverted their own understanding to fit a narrative that they desire for their own personal pleasures and desires. If any man or woman still disagrees with this fact, I have a question for you to solve according to your understanding and knowledge. Just in our country alone, Afro-America, there are 100 women to every 80 odd men approximately. According to your knowledge and understanding, what you believe God created man and woman how to be, what do you do with the spares when every man has a woman and there are 20 women for every 100 women who are in a relationship left over after every man is already married? What do you do with the spares? Do we kill the spares and say they are not worthy? Or do we create brothel houses and make them all whores and promote fornication for them to be prostitutes for money in order to survive? Or do we curse God and say he made a mistake? Or do we pray for God to make more Adams from the dust of the earth? What do you do if you believe one man is bound to only one woman, and anything outside of that is not lawful according to God and his word? Nobody can have no real answer, because your selfish feelings could never answer or understand the ways of the Most High. Therefore, understand the truth. A man has a divine right, if he so chooses, to be with more than one woman, as long as he is worthy and responsible of doing so. If a different man takes part in this act and he is not worthy or responsible, then he is held accountable to the Creator for being a fraud and worse than an infidel. Men cannot cheat. They can only be dishonorable to you. What you have to do as women is use your discernment and wisdom that you are supposed to have and be with men who are honorable, worthy, competent, and responsible for your well-being. Because many of our women will complain and say, my man or men I've been with are not worthy, and it's all because you have chosen poorly and who you want to follow, and it ended very badly for you. Women were never designed to select their own husbands as they liked. This was the father job in order to protect the interests of his daughter's well-being. But in America and in any other colonized country, you women were given much liberty to choose as you please, and instead of chasing a man that is righteous, reflecting the ways and attributes of the Most High God, that's going to be a father figure, hold you accountable, going to challenge your understanding, give you proper knowledge and instruction to follow, and make you renew yourself as a woman to be better and reach your highest potential. Instead of you choosing men of that caliber, you chose Pookie and Ray Ray. And you chose to only value horse sticks over all other values from men for your well-being as a vulnerable woman. Chasing what only satisfies your flesh and not your soul has not only destroyed you, but has also destroyed our community, because you ladies have amplified and magnified this behavior all throughout the country, glorifying yourselves being thoughts. Incompetent, simpish men with no dignity for themselves have truly loved you. And men who are not foolish to make you his wife have used you for quick pleasure to satisfy his flesh, pretending they like you and It gave you the belief men accept that behavior. This has given you a sense of thrill to be a promiscuous whore, living life on the edge, to be free to do whatever it is that you want to do and however you want, giving you the feeling that there are no consequences for your behavior because you feel loved by your men who deceived you. As a child, you reflect that's the father you chose to follow and get your instructions from, and it has led to your own shame. This is the mess our women need to clean up. The child cannot tell the father how many children he should have and how many children he should not have. Neither can a woman tell a man how many women he can have and how many women he cannot have, because she is nothing but a beneficiary to the creation of what that man have created. Just like man cannot say to God, you can only accept us and not any other people. Man would look foolish because God gave him the gift of life in his creation, and he cannot dictate how he would benefit from what was created. God could choose who he wants and who he doesn't want. This is his world that he created for us, and we cannot dictate who comes and who goes. Same goes for women. If a man brings you into his world/domain or empire, you cannot dictate the rules of his creation regarding who he is going to take care of and who he is not going to take care of. When you marry a man, you enter into his world under his rules. If a woman truly desires a man to herself, the best chance for that to happen is to accept that man's divine right to have another woman if he so chooses. And when you accept this hard, controversial truth and accept that you have been lied to regarding monogamy, what starts to happen is your behavior begins to change. You would no longer feel entitled. You would no longer think to disrespect your man. You would have reverence for your man. You will begin to have more respect in a sense of fear because you know the power God has given to him. Then this starts to activate that essence of meekness that you lost, and you are now once again precious in the eyes, soft-spoken, seeking after the ways of your mother, whose name is wisdom. Then all of the positive qualities that a child of God possesses begins to manifest in you. This is more precious than rubies, riches, etc., as it is written. If a man finds or creates this type of woman that reflects Proverbs 31, that woman was delivered by God himself. Be the woman that God made to be delivered to a man and reflect the image of your mother, whose name is wisdom. When you begin to reflect her, only then you will develop the power to have the greatest chance of suppressing your man's appetite for other women. Monogamy was introduced as a weapon to not only destroy our history, tradition, and culture and way of life, but also to make sure that we don't populate very rapidly, as we have done in Egypt and other places where we were scattered. Now that our women have received a taste of this bastardized idea of a man being enforced to be with one woman, it gave her a sense of power, entitlement, selfishness, and ego that strips her of her meek essence. As a consequence, we have some women walking around here with an inflated ego, giving them the impression they have some sort of external power and authority to keep a man in this state of servitude in which some women like and would prefer. The truth is, you have no external power or authority over what he will and will not do. And you are ignorant of the fact that your livelihood is in the hands of men. The lack of respect is going to be realized when Babylon is made naked, and you will no longer have a whore that will protect your hoarder. Women will always be and have always been the spoils of war. So for you women out there that's trying to live like men, you and your so-called wife are in danger because you can't protect her well-being when you both are spoils of war in the sight of brutish men. Some of you were once beautiful and soft, but because a man broke your heart, you turned to your own kind in hopes of filling a void that you will never find in that direction. I encourage you to return to your true nature and humble yourself and understand who you are and seek protection under a wholesome man who reflects the true image of the Most High. Men are awakening to the truth and standing in boldness, taking accountability to clean up their mess, and we want you to do the same and begin cleaning up your mess also. Now, let's talk about your power and how it is used against you. In the beginning, God created man, and he gave man the external power of force, creation, provision, critical thinking, understanding. He then gave man a woman as a helper for his creation abilities. Her power is found internally, the power of nurture, love, joy, kindness, and peace. This is the power of emotion. The emotional power is more powerful than the man's power when applied correctly. The power of emotion allows our woman to amplify and magnify things in a way that will take a man a long time to accomplish if he does it without the help of a woman. For example, if a man says he's going to make his city of 100,000 people behave righteously with the help of his brothers and their drawn out plan, it will take them 2 years. But if they plant the seed of that idea in women and they emotionalize that idea in their being to be a good cause, they will help those men and amplify the idea that would be loud and magnetic, attracting those 100,000 people and getting the job done in 3 months opposed to 2 years. This is why Satan went after Eve, because he understood it would take him forever trying to deceive Adam. But if he could deceive Eve, she would be able to seduce Adam to being deceived willingly, because her seduction is the other side of her power of emotion, and that's the negative side, and it is a strong emotional magnet. Some of the most intelligent, wise kings and strongest warriors have been brought down by her magnetic power that derives all from her emotion. A man's duty is to connect the woman to their conscious mind and for her to take control of her emotional power for what is good. A woman's duty is to connect her man, giving him the ability of amplifying and magnifying his ideas of creation for what is good. Whereas, had he done it alone, it would be a long, toiling journey that he may never get to accomplish. We need each other for perpetual balance of our power. The truth is, ladies, you are the secret weapon to all of this, whether for good or for evil. We need you in this fight for righteousness. It's your choice on what side you want to be on. The faster you ladies adopt what is true and good and throw away the lies and stop allowing your power to be used against you and our communities, the quicker we can establish heaven on earth. The kingdom lies within us. It's up to us to bring it out. Us men will continue to clean up our mess that we started. And if you ladies help us, guess what? We can do this a whole lot faster. We prefer it that way. I hope you do too. Men, we need to strive to be one of 4 positions, or perhaps all 4. And that is a noble man, divine warrior, a prince, or a king crowned by Yahuwah. Ladies, you need to strive to be one of 4 positions, or perhaps all 4. A child of God, a virtuous mother, a princess or queen of heaven on earth. Now that we've examined both of our wicked and disgusting behavior, we can start to correct this behavior in a righteous manner, given we take accountability for what was just said, to restore our ancient path of love, truth, joy, peace, and reverence for the Creator. No soul joining Basur Nation will carry baggage of dogma, vanity, false ideologies, and or spiritual defiance. All of that will be burned with all of the other toxic traits and behaviors we have developed in this apostate age, and that will be burned at the door. We will all be on one accord, from the least to the greatest. Any person that is interested in joining the nation for certain values and benefits, but refuses to accept all values because of certain beliefs, will not be a beneficiary. If a person has a particular belief and believes the nation has adopted a flawed philosophy, or believes the nation has adopted a lie, well, guess what? They are welcome to make their application to the smoke tank. There, the beliefs will be expressed and an intellectual debate shall commence to get down to the absolute truth. If the applicant proves the nation has adopted a flawed philosophy or a lie, then guess what? The nation will make a public announcement of the mistake and correct it for the record. If the applicant is proven wrong of their beliefs, he or she will make a public announcement of their wrong and correct it for the record before becoming a beneficiary. Now, let's talk about the trust in the elements that will be incorporated in the trust agreement, aka our Constitution. Okay? Follow me. Okay, here we are in the presentation, and what we're going to cover here is the meat and potatoes and the principles on basically how the trust is going to operate. I'm going to make another video that is covering the entire Constitution in itself. We're going to be reading over the document and giving you some proper interpretation where something might be ambiguous, but it's pretty clear. But nonetheless, just in case, all right, along with another video where we're going to go about reading the Declaration of our Independence, and I don't want these videos to be too long, so that's why I'm breaking it up. So I encourage you to watch every single one to get a full understanding, especially if you want to be a trustee, a co-trustee, or some form of official that's going to be working in part of the body to really get the engine running and get this bad boy rolling. All right, so pay attention to everything. So as you can see, complete trust transparency. All right, love and absolute transparency are the two main factors that will permeate throughout the entire Constitution of Basora Nation. All beneficiaries will have complete transparency of the trust. They will know at all times how much money the trust has as a whole. They will also know how the money is being distributed in real time. So here we are with the budget, and it says 100% of the trust fund will be rightly divided into 6 major categories. These 6 major categories are 10% for the disenfranchised Hebrew Moorish communities, 12% for administrative management services, 5% for capital investment in standby real estate. Then we have 7% for standby career services, 25% for Basora's main core objectives. And I believe beneficiaries are going to love that part. That's going to be their favorite part. And then we have 41% for reserves to maintain solvency. That way we're constantly growing and we're never going to go broke. Never, okay? Because we're not going to be using the money recklessly or ignorantly. Let's define each category more specifically. The 10% is allocated for the poor. So that is our disenfranchised community. And it will be stored for the communities where we set up our dominion. It will be constantly utilized to help consistently show love to the community and help supply the needs of the less fortunate with clothes, shoes, necessity items, food, and more, like programs for incarcerated men and women, drug abusers, small grants, forgiveness loans to the beneficiaries and to the needy in limited measures. In addition, we'll have social programs for the youth and adolescents subjected to incompetent parents, which makes them at risk. Furthermore, with this 10%, we're going to have professional development programs to help our people who are adults, but they're lacking basic fundamental skills in order to get a decent public job where they can earn some revenue and just have some integrity and dignity about themselves. All right. A lot of our people are able, but mentally they're like a kindergarten. So we're going to bring them up to speed so that they can have some confidence and ultimately be prepared to work within the body of the nation. Then we have the 12%, which is allocated for trust management. This will be utilized by trustees without any discretion of the beneficiaries. With the 12%, trustees are able to freely lay the groundwork in every community where we set up our dominion. This will deal with purchasing a variety of equipment for management purposes, office space, creating community centers, investments trustees deem necessary for the growth and development, travel expenses, holding summits, and much, much more. So when we go into a particular community, aka city, we'll be able to set up shop before we blow the shofar to let the people know that we're in that community. All right, we'll already have some things set up just so that way everything works properly and sound, already put in place, and things could go according to plan. Now let's move to the next budget category, which is the 5%. All right, so the 5% for capital investment, and this will be utilized for investing in securities, standby real estate, and other investment strategies that will increase the value of the nation for the beneficiaries. The trustees are going to be responsible for investigating good investment strategies and options and sharing that information with the beneficiaries and allowing beneficiaries to feel encouraged to participate in giving some advice for particular investment endeavors. So what we may have is a investment committee where we literally hire and compensate beneficiaries who are going to be responsible of helping the nation, invest in various projects, okay? And they'll be incentivized and it'll be a lot of fun, all right? Then we have the 7%. This 7% is going to be allocated for standby career services. Career services are reserves for vacancies that will benefit the trust and beneficiaries. This will be distributed towards a variety of different fields of skills and expertise. For example, software developers, secretaries, CPAs, management, and much, much more. Now, one of the main core projects that we'll be working heavily in is this 25%. All right, the 25% is allocated towards the project, which involves investing in many endeavors that the beneficiaries or trustees may propose from their business ideas that may help suit the trust and the beneficiaries as a collective. The 25% is at the full discretion of all beneficiaries of the trust. They will have the influence to determine whether or not a business proposal will be funded or not through a majority vote. So as you can see, all of the beneficiaries are going to be working together to take responsibility, right? And this right here is going to be a lot of fun as well, right? And this is what's going to bring us together and work together not only as a community, but also business-wise, right? So we're going to be supporting each other in all business endeavors, all right? Solving the problem of quote-unquote black economics. All right, so again, a beneficiary or trustee may propose a business plan or idea that will benefit the trust and the beneficiaries involved. The beneficiary or trustee needs to demonstrate first, though, 5 things. Okay? They must demonstrate 5 things in order to make their case good. All right? And that is, number 1, how does the idea profit the trust, expanding its growth and influence? Number 2, what reward does Bosorians obtain from the proposed idea? Number 3, how does the Moorish community that are not direct beneficiaries benefit indirectly from such proposed idea? Number 4, how much capital is required to start the project? And then lastly, number 5, how many agents, aka employees, I don't like the term employees, how many agents will be needed for the startup? Okay, so these are the 5 things that everyone who's going to have a business plan and presentation, they must make sure they have all of this written down, as well as this, their cost. Okay, any beneficiary or trustee that has a business proposal need to make sure they have calculated the cost for being self-autonomous for a minimum of 18 months. The capital needed shall include all reoccurring expenses, employment expenses, lease or property costs, and any equipment needed for purchase. All right, so we need to make sure that we have that understanding, so that way every time we invest in a business, that business should have no reason to fail. Okay, after the presentation is complete, the beneficiaries will take a vote to determine the value and whether or not they believe it's a good idea to grant or deny funding from the proposed idea. If the vote is 50-50, it shall be granted to the presenter. Now, if any beneficiary gets their proposal approved by the other beneficiaries, that person will receive a 75-ounce gold annual salary for being the CEO of that particular business. Okay? In addition to that, they're going to receive a 36% transferable equitable stake. All right, so you would have a transferable equitable stake that you could sell some, keep all, whatever you want to do with that. You could do that to get more business partners, whatever, however you want to do. Okay, that's your portion of the business. You own it, and you'll still get the 75-ounce gold annual salary as long as you maintain the CEO. Perhaps one day you might want to put another CEO there. Okay, so these are the benefits. However, the first year you're going to just receive the salary. After 1 full year of service, then the benefits start kicking in. We want to make sure that all of our businesses are sound. You'll have more understanding when I break down the entire Constitution. Okay, and you will then be able to see and understand why this is the case. Now, what about beneficiaries who already have a business? If any beneficiary who already has a business
and would like to scale and meets the desires of the trust will give 36% equitable stake to the trust in exchange for funding. Now, let me just say this too about the funding, etc. Whatever the budget may be, it doesn't matter how much you need. So if we have a 25% budget of $100 million, well, it doesn't matter how much you need as a presenter, you just say it. Again, perhaps you might be a genius and have a amazing idea and it requires a lot of capital. Well, by all means, do not be afraid to go about presenting how much you need. Okay, there is no cap. The only cap is the actual budget that we have to spend. Okay, so just put that out there. Whether you already have a business, there's no cap, and or if you are new and you're presenting a new business idea, there is no cap. The only cap is the budget. So I just want to make sure that people understand this because I want you guys to understand the sky is the limit. Now let's focus on the 41%. This is the last part of the budget. Okay, the 41% shall be held as the reserves of the trust. The reserves of the trust may sway between 36% and 41%, but the reserves are not to ever decrease below 36%. Okay, so we are never going to go broke. For instance, if trustees find they need more funding for a particular project that exceeds the capacity of the budget, they are permitted to withdraw 5% to be allocated to the entire budget. Okay, and they're able to do this twice a year. That's it. Now, when you understand and you can start to see how this is all functioning, it constantly puts us in a upward trajectory, right? Where we're constantly building and building and building. So even during our withdrawals, etc., we're still growing. All right, and we stick to this. So when we, as a trustees, withdraw 5%, perhaps let's say it's $10,000. It shall be allocated as follows, according to the budget that we just talked about. For capital investment, $500. Career services, $700. Disenfranchised community, $1,000. Management of the trust, $1,200. Core project, $2,500. But obviously that's not the full $10,000. We still have $4,100 left. So what do we do with that? Very simple. The remaining $4,100 will be evenly divided amongst all 5 budgeted accounts. Okay? And this is how we withdraw our reserves and use our reserves. Okay? Next slide. Trustees will store continually 70% of all reserves in gold and silver. Okay? And the reason why is because we want to prepare and build a private financial infrastructure. And we need gold and silver in order to do that. And this same principle is what all of our businesses are going to adopt as well. And you're going to learn why. Now, perhaps you already can see and understand why. And that's good if you do. That way, when things start to fall for Babylon, we'll still be strong. We'll still be able to stand and enjoy and engage in commerce, etc., etc. All right? We'll be able to witness the reward of the wicked, but the Most High said He will allow us to be at peace and be full of joy, where the heathen shall envy us, but shall not be able to do no harm. Okay? So I really hope that you people understand what I am doing and what I am demonstrating. Okay? Because this is divine. With all of that being said, what we have to understand is we have each other. Okay? So when we have each other, we need to know that the trust shall never borrow from any country, central bank, financial institutions, with the only exception of utilizing credit card instruments that are created by these institutions, where we may have some of our money stored until we get our own private banking infrastructure complete. All right? So we're not to borrow from no one because we have each other. Okay? And it keeps other institutions away from trying to find a way to somehow compromise the body, right? Because debt or usury is where people try to compromise the body to take over something, and that's what we're not going to do. The true creditors shall always be the beneficiaries. Now, why, you may ask? Well, guess what? This nation/trust is designed to give all beneficiaries strong abilities to build wealth and to establish prosperity in their lives individually and together. All right. So the trust is not designed to make profit right away. It's designed to make sure that the beneficiaries profit, and by default, the trust will profit. Okay. This is a marathon, not a sprint. All right. And so as long as we continue and operate on this principle, we're going to open up avenues of prosperity like never before. Okay. Prosperity comes when you truly have love for the poor. Okay. As I was studying natural law and understanding that the root of all evil is the love of money, well, I simply looked on the other side of the spectrum and I said, well, if that is the case, then that means the love of the poor is the root to all prosperity. Okay? And when that settled into my heart, I was like, wow, that's deep. Because it is true. And so this is how this trust operates. All right? All right? So make sure you understand that. Together we stand, divided we fall. If the trustees find they have exhausted their financial withdrawals from the trust reserves and believe there is a project that benefits the trust along with the beneficiaries and the cost exceeds the budget capacity, the trustees may create a grant proposal that is separate from the day-to-day operations and policies of the trust, but they must outline the 5 key things that we've already talked about. They're very similar. I'm just going to go ahead and say it again. How does the proposal profit the trust, expanding its growth and influence? What reward does the Masorians obtain from the proposed idea, and how? How does the Moorish community that are not direct beneficiaries of the trust benefit indirectly from the proposed idea? How much money does each Masorian need to contribute in order to grant the project, and how many agents will be needed for the startup? So this is what the trustees must demonstrate if they have such a grant proposal. All right. After the presentation is complete, the beneficiaries will take a vote to determine whether or not they believe it's a good idea to grant or deny the funding for the proposed idea. The grant proposal vote must be equal to or exceed the grant deny ratio of 80-20 to confirm the grant. If the grant deny ratio does not exceed or be equal to the 80-20 vote, then by default the grant is denied. The 20% or less will not be obliged to pay or grant the proposal if we do have 80% or more say yes to the grant. All right. And trustees are not to abuse this. So trustees may create 3 grant proposals per year and to not exceed this amount for the entire Jubilee period of the entire term of the trust. Okay, so as you can see, guys, as long as the trustees are on top of their game, making sure that you guys are winning, guess what? We're going to win like never before, as it is written. Once the commencement of the nation is complete, beneficiaries will contribute their portion for 3 months before initialization begins. What is initialization? Initialization is the settling of all accounts. Initialization starts every 3 months or quarter of the year. During the initialization period, the beneficiaries and trustees will be able to assess how much money we have to distribute for the main project on building the nation according to the budget. From this standpoint, everyone who have an idea and needs funding will make their presentation known amongst all the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries will have the duty to hear out the presentation to determine whether or not they believe the business plan serves the trust and the people. And we would have 3 months to complete listening to all applicants who have a presentation to offer before the next initialization or quarter begins. Okay? Now, what we're not going to do though is actually wait all the way up to 3 months. So we're going to develop some policies that's going to be dealing with this vote and making sure that we make room for the other people who may have proposals, etc., for the following quarter. All right. So I've already thought of that and have all of that written down in terms of how that's going to function. And it's also in the trust. And when we read it, you'll see that as well. Contributions are the breath of life of the trust. All right. And if you understand the method, you understand why. All right. Because again, this is designed to make sure that all of the beneficiaries are winning. And then by default, this will again make sure the trust is winning. But the contributions are the breath of life. It's the spirit, it's the power that makes this work in the way that it's working. Okay, so that means that all beneficiaries are not to ever stop, and that means that everybody who is part of this body will always contribute. Okay, that way we create a centrifugal force, right? That will eventually snowball into something more grand than most have eyes to see. Okay, so let's look at how we will contribute and what exactly does that mean. The contribution will vary depending on the amount of income a beneficiary receives. The contribution is fair and just and have considered variables such as taxes being deducted from the individual paycheck, etc. Okay, we understand some of our people are subjected to high taxes, child support, etc., etc. Okay, so when I laid this out, I made sure it's absolutely fair, and even when you look at on the higher numbers, the percentages are still very much there. Okay, each beneficiary will have to show evidence of their income through forms of documentation such as a paycheck stub, bank statements, or annual tax filings to verify their status. Okay, without the contribution, the trust will cease to exist. All contributions will greatly benefit each beneficiary in housing, victuals, which is food, receiving of grants, forgiveness loans, standby career services to retire from mundane jobs, and much, much more. Okay? Now, I want to touch on really quick receiving of grants, right? And forgiveness loans. Some of our people are struggling, but the thing is, as long as they're contributing, they'll be able to go and get that grant or to get that forgiveness loan. Okay? But if you're not putting in, you cannot get out. You must put in order to get out. All right? And what you're putting in is not burdensome. Okay? But there's power in numbers, and that's why it's important. All right, so let me touch on grants. Grants is something that you don't have to pay back. Let me also give you an understanding of what a forgiveness loan is. A forgiveness loan is actually where you may need money, all right, but the budget might have exceeded the grant portion of it. Okay, and so we only have room for forgiveness loans. Okay, so we'll say, hey, listen, you need how much? Okay, you need that money? Okay, we'll give you, I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000, right? And we need you to pay that money back. Okay, now we're not going to be mad at you if you don't pay it back, but just understand that if you don't pay it back, we're going to forgive you, but you cut yourself off from receiving another loan. Okay, now it doesn't mean that you can't get a grant, but you got to be able to catch the grant if we still have room in that budget. Okay, so if you're honorable, you'll pay the $5,000 or the $10,000 back. If you're still mismanaging your money, well, we're going to forgive you for that, but you won't be able to receive another forgiveness loan. So you cut that benefit off. But it doesn't mean that you still don't have access to all of the other benefits of the trust. All right, so that's just to give you an idea of what the forgiveness loans are. All right, but also when you're contributing, you might be working at McDonald's or some basic mundane job that you hate. Okay, but as long as you're contributing, soon as a vacancy is open for us to hire some people to do particular tasks, well, guess what? You could go ahead and fill that slot. So now you are having a job, quote unquote, I should say you have a career where you're serving your people, you have a sense of purpose now, and you're able to prosper with the wealth that you're getting from being paid. Okay, because it's not going to be subjected to any form of tax, etc. Okay, it's going to be straight out given to you. All right, you're still going to contribute, but your contribution is nothing compared to what you're making. You understand? So as long as people understand that, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So let's look at this chart here. Now, right here, I just got a small portion of it, but in the actual Constitution, this chart goes all the way down to $200,000+. Okay, so if you look closely at this very grayish, it's kind of hard to see. It's terrible because I wanted to make sure you guys could kind of see the theme as well. But it says basically if you gross less than $38,000, okay, your contribution is only $25 weekly. Okay, that's not hard. That's very simple. All right. Now, I will talk more about this. If renting nation property, your benefit cost for rent is $250. We'll talk more about this, but right now I just want to focus on the contributions. We'll come back to this shortly. If you gross between 38,000 but less than 43,000, well then your contribution is $37 weekly. Okay? Now, just really quick, you can pay monthly, semi-annually, yearly if you so choose. I mean, that's up to you, but you can take it a week at a time as well. All right. Now, when I say pay monthly, weekly, I mean you by default you pay weekly. But if you get paid weekly, you pay weekly. Okay. Now, if you don't get paid weekly, then we'll make some exceptions for that upon proof of claim. But if you're getting paid weekly and you like to just pay for the whole month, by all means, go ahead and do that. That's fine. But if you make less than, like I said, less than 43,000, but between 38,000, your contribution is only $37 weekly. Okay, and if you make between 43,000 and less than 48,000, then your contribution a week is $49. Okay, and then if you make less than 48,000, if you make between 48,000 and less than 53,000, your contribution is $61 weekly. Okay, now this is not burdensome, and for your contribution, the amount of benefits that you get doesn't even compare. So anyone who is in dire need of help, they would contribute because the benefits will always be there for you. You know, so to not contribute and still be in dire need is oxymoron. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the next slide. All members of the trust will contribute weekly. Okay, that it goes for from the highest officials all the way to the lowest. Nobody's exempt. Okay, we all in this together. Now, like I said, if there are people who would like to join the nation but their money is paid out bi-weekly or monthly, the trustees will make an exception for those particular individuals upon proof of claim. Okay, now we have people in our community, or AKA we have a lot of our people who are, oh crap, there's a typo here. Forgive my typo. I hate typos. That sucks. But anyway, perhaps there are some of our people who are well off. They're making good money, and some of them don't want to disclose it because it's a lot of money. I don't, for whatever reason, that they have that right to, if they can afford to meet this standard. So, if there are individuals who gross more than $200,000 annually but refuse to disclose income, must contribute by the year of $24,804. Okay? Now, as you can see, these are all dollar amounts, but when you look over here, I have the actual amount of silver and or gold as you for every dollar amount. And we'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to show you that I'm not just talking numbers. This deals with gold and silver as well. But if they don't want to disclose that their income, they must contribute by the year. So they must pay out by the year. And if they want, they can pay up to 5 years, 10 years, however they want. All right. So, but this is the minimum. The minimum is $24,804. So a lot of our millionaire brothers and sisters, they're doing well, and they like to keep a lot of their money, and that's fine. But any of them who are in good business understands this is great business, not only for the least of our people, but also for the greatest, right? So like I told you, this incentivizes us all from the least to the greatest to experience and do things beyond what we can imagine. For a millionaire to pay $24,804 and to have access to the benefits that he or she have access to, I mean, I don't think they experience this at all. Perhaps so, I don't know, but this is pretty solid, you know? And I am excited, I really am, because I know what it's going to do for our people. So what we have to understand, people, is you are going to be able to play both sides. So you can play and operate in the public and be able to be rewarded, and also you can operate in the private and be rewarded. Okay, and we'll talk more about that down the line. All right, so individuals who cannot demonstrate revenue streams of income will receive the status of a protege. Okay, so you got to put some skin in the game. Like I said, you have to put in order to get out. It's a lot of our people who are in dire need of help, and we will help them, but they will have to operate under certain terms. So proteges of Basura Nation will be individuals who are interested in becoming part of the body but do not have any job or revenue to contribute to the trust. Proteges will be put on standby for careers for the nation in various projects and will be tasked to do intern work with appointed officials to demonstrate a contrite heart and a desire to do good for the community and beneficiaries of the trust, showing leadership skills and worthiness to be trusted. And the reason why that is important, because some of our brothers and sisters have done a lot of time in jail. They've been subjected to the criminal commercial system, which is ruining their name, and so they cannot get a public job, right? Although they want to build a life for themselves, but they're limited because they're being discriminated against due to their criminal record. So we understand that, and we have a solution for that. All right. So let's go ahead and continue on the next slide. Okay, so as you can see, residential property divisions, right? So Basura is going to be purchasing a massive amount of real estate, commercial and residential. Okay, and right now we're just going to focus on what the residential is for. Okay, and the residential property is for the beneficiaries. Okay, and why? Because we understand that inflation is on its way up and a lot of our people are still struggling. Okay, so what we're going to do is buy residential property and furnish it all, so all the beneficiaries who are living in these houses, apartment buildings, etc., they will not have to buy any furniture. Everything will be furnished. Okay, and all they have to do is literally just walk in and live, pay the rent, and build some wealth. Okay, so beneficiaries will have a super subsidized rent cost per month according to the chart herein. So really quick, let's go ahead and go back. As you can see, depending on what you make will determine what you have to pay for your rent. All right, and if you're making less than 43,000 but between 38, well, you pay $350. If you're also in this bracket, they're the same, $350 per month. Okay, now if you're in this bracket, less than 53,000 but between 48, then you're paying $450, and the next bracket is also $450. Okay, and this here is all you need to pay for rent. So what is that allowing you to do? You're able to work, you're able to build wealth, and it doesn't matter whether you're working for the trust or you're not working for the trust, you'll still be able to do this. Okay, but this allows you to start to build wealth, start to hold on to some money finally, right? When you don't have bills calling you here or calling you there, you start to be able to prosper, right? And this is part of the reason why a lot of our people are struggling, because some of our people are making good money, but their money is being pulled from all directions and just trying to survive, right? So we're going to build an infrastructure so you can actually literally build wealth. All right, so as you're building wealth, other things start to open up for you as well that you're going to realize here in this trust. So what about non-Moorish members? What about our people who are not part of the body, right? Well, we're going to look out for them too, because we know that inflation is kicking they behind too, but it's not going to be like the beneficiaries because it's designed specifically to discourage them, right? We don't want them to be separate from the body. We want to say, hey, listen, we're looking out for you, but we can only look out for you for so much, right? So you either be part of the body or you're going to be subjected to a subsidized rent cost per month, but will be significantly more compared to the beneficiaries rate. And it will be less than the national rate, right, of whatever rent is. And I understand that some people have been studying consumer law, so they'll be like, well, we don't have to pay rent. What some of these people don't understand or even consider is that a lot of our people are weak. I'm not fighting for those who are strong. I'm fighting for those who are weak. And those who are strong need to help me, and we can create prosperity like never before for the strong and for the weak. All right? So I understand the principles of consumer law and how you can use that where you don't have to pay bills, etc., etc. However, a lot of our people are not competent in order to apply those methods. So we are looking out for the least, for the weak as well. All right? So let's continue. But what it says here, sponsored students. So students who are in school for any trade, skill, or applied science will have adequate housing, and their rent is to what? Literally pay attention. and demonstrate exceptional grades. All right. So some of our people want to get a education in various fields to go about establishing some form of career, something that they love. However, life is pulling them down in order to be able to focus on that. But Basura Nation will sponsor those individuals because it helps benefit everyone, right? So, yes, we will have residential property for sponsored students as well, where they can go ahead and stay in those places and just focus on school and getting that discipline so that they can use those skills and apply it to the nation, right? And they'll receive an allowance so they can still, navigate and still have a sense of life, so we're going to make sure that they receive an allowance as well as they study, okay? And then profit endeavors. When adequate, the trust residential property may be utilized for profit and gain after community is restored to its ideal state of existence. All right? So, as you can see, so far, I have demonstrated a lot of great benefits that is going to get our people excited. As you can see right now, a lot of what you are seeing is extremely beneficial for our people. But guess what? There's more, right? And many people will and shall be already excited, but the thing is, that's good, and it's going to reward you even more. You know why? Because when you share these things right here, when you go out and share these things, there's nothing but goodness in this nation, all right? And as a beneficiary, you are encouraged to invite others to join and participate in building the nation, to help others come along and be free from oppression, okay? And be free from public obligations that's stressing them out and making them depressed and making them feel like they have no sense of purpose. All right. Now, when you go out and encourage people to be part of this and to help build a nation, you're rewarded for that. All right. For instance, when a beneficiary shares the opportunity Basura brings to the community and how they may benefit, if that person joins, the beneficiary will receive $381 payout for each person after the members have demonstrated solidarity for 2 months. Each payout is done every initialization period. Okay? Now, as you can think and meditate, you can see that, well, for each person, okay, well, they say it's only 40 million of us. Okay? However, we're not even counting a lot of our brothers and sisters that have moved over from Africa. We're not counting our Afro-Latino brothers. Okay, so we're talking about 80 plus million, and I'm being light, I think it's more in the 100 millions. Okay, 100 million plus, or let's just say 80 million plus people, all right, that are prospects for people who would love to benefit from this. All right, so this will create an enormous opportunity for beneficiaries from the least to the greatest to build incredible wealth for themselves and for their families. But you must remember that it is Yahuwah that gives you power to establish wealth, that he may establish his covenant he made with our forefather. All right? He said he was going to make sure we come out with great substance. This here is just the beginning of the steps. Okay, so the Most High is literally right on time. All right, so if you know 100 people, well, guess what? That's $38,000 that will be paid out after 2 months, or excuse me, after 3 months. All right, so you got, for example, you got three months. All right, you got from one quarter to the next, you have that time to invite as many people and be excited to make sure that, hey, be part of this. This is real, right? And you go and invite 100 people. Well, that's a $38,000 paycheck for you. Okay, a lot of our people never even see that kind of money. All right, let alone just how simple and easy it is to acquire, because it's 100 people. Who wouldn't want to be part of this, right? So this is how it's going to be loud. This is how it's going to be viral. This is how it's going to be magnetic, like I already said. Okay. Now, let's say you know 1,000 people. Well, you already know. If it was 38,000 for 100, well, that's 381,000 for 1,000, and you could do a whole lot of 3 months. All right. And I'm sure a lot of our people want to get away from the rat race and have a sense of purpose. So by all means, go out and invite as many people as you possibly can for those who are the initial beneficiaries. And even those who come after, they'll still have that incentive as well. Now, the good news is the members who recruit the most with consistency will have the greatest chance of making themselves officials of the trust and given a yearly salary after a given number of men and women are brought into the body. Their positions will begin as the high ministers or trustees deem necessary. So, and there's more to that. As an official, there's many different benefits that you can benefit from. And like I said, those who recruit the most with consistency will have a great chance of making themselves officials of the trust and given an annual salary with associated benefits. And you'll learn all about that when we go over the Constitution. So as you can see here is a small chart really quick on all of the levels of salary that the trust will operate on minimally. Okay, so if you are a grantor or someone that knows how to create private trusts, okay, which also is a business, well, or you're a trustee and or a creator where you created a business plan that we voted on and we said yay, and you went and received the money in trust and went about doing the business, this is the salary, right? $198,000 a year, okay, minimally. If you are a co-trustee or high official, or you have high technical skills, or you're in the blue collar industry, well, your salary is $158,000 annually. Okay? If you have soft skill labor, secretaries, medium level management positions, your salary is $119,000 annually. First officer, low official, general supervisor, low level management, $79,000 annually. And then if you are unskilled general labor, minimum wage worker, your minimum salary for the year is $52,000 annually. So as you can see, everybody is winning. It's not about who makes more than what, because you could be making $52,000, but if you go and invite 100 people, 1,000 people, it doesn't matter. You still can get other income in other ways. All right. But this is just how it works when you have a particular career or job. All right. And everybody wins, because with these amounts, you're not being subjected to the taxes that you will be subjected to if you were working in the public. So that's what makes this better. And then funny thing is, no minimum wage worker in the public is even making $52,000. You have to have some sort of competence to even get $52,000. All right. So as you can see, this here is going to shake the nation. So get excited. Now, as you can see, I don't have the gold and silver attached to this, but it is in the Constitution. But all salaries, contributions are fixed according to gold and silver. It shall not change. If the price of gold or silver increases, then shall the salary or contributions be adjusted. If the members are still utilizing fiat currencies or digital credits, okay? Now, for instance, if $198,000 annual salary is equal to 75 ounces of gold, then the annual salary is truly 75 ounces of gold. Okay? And if 75 ounces of gold later cost $250,000, then the annual salary of the credits or the currency should be only adjusted. Okay? Now, what about when people are working and, raises and stuff like that? Well, that's also locked in the trust. Okay? But let's do another example. Another example dealing with annual salaries in silver. Okay? So, if unskilled labor annual salary is $52,000 and is equal to 1,654 ounces of silver, then the annual salary is truly 1,654 ounces of silver annually. Now, if the 1,654 ounces of silver later costs $75,000, then the annual salary of credits or of the currency should only be adjusted. Okay? Adjustments shall be made annually from the date of the first initialization. Now, if the trustees start to see some sort of hyperinflation, then we will make some adjustments accordingly, and that is also expressed in the trust. Now let's talk about tenureship, right? Individuals demonstrating tenureship in their respective fields of work on the behalf of building the nation directly or indirectly will receive a 5 ounce of gold or 414 ounce of silver increase to their annual salary every 3 years, 12 times. Okay, so basically, doesn't matter what level you at, okay, whether you're 52,000 on up, every 3 years you get a 5 ounce gold increase, which is approximately equivalent to $12,000. Okay, so in 3 years, $12,000 increase, $12,000 increase, etc., etc., and you get that 12 times. So let's say you just wanted to just work, you just was a hard worker, and you just wanted to take care of your family. You don't care to, you know, be involved in a lot of extra stuff because you just have that's your lot. Okay, fine. But if you were an unskilled labor worker in whatever company that we have, in 36 years, if you committed to that company for 36 years, okay, you would be making roughly $200,000 a year. Okay, and even in just in what 6 years, you would be making roughly $76,000 a year. Okay, so these salaries are, no matter what level you at, you will prosper. Everybody is going to win. Okay, so get excited because this is real. All right. Now let's talk about the control center of the nation. As you can see, Basora Nation is going to have 4 directorate houses. All right. I use the term directorate because I hate the term government, which means to govern your mindset. Okay. This is not designed to govern your mindset. It's designed to direct you into liberation, into freedom, into prosperity. All right. So we have the 4 directorate houses that will be the center of control. The first house we're going to have is the Royal House, and this will be responsible for creating laws, policies, and ordinances that complements Basora's Constitution. So when we read the Constitution, you're going to understand all that is, right? But we're going to go ahead and touch on a few of it. What are some of those things that are going to be in the Constitution? Well, these laws, policies, and ordinances shall complement true knowledge, health, care, wealth building, love, prosperity, protection of human rights, joy, peace, scientific innovation, and much, much more. Okay? So when this house write anything into law, it is to pertain to those benefits. Okay? To make one continue to be uplifted and full of joy and full of peace and full of thanks, full of gratitude towards the Creator, right? And towards each other for, helping each other, right? Now, also in the Royal House is going to delegate a sub-administrative council, if you will, and this is going to be called the Guardian Council. It's going to be made up of a patriarchal and matriarchal council, okay? And this council is going to be in the community at all times, okay? And we're going to talk more about that in the actual reading of the Constitution. I don't want to get too more in depth with that, but the Royal House will appoint a patriarchal and matriarchal council, which will be called the Guardian Council, that is literally in the midst of all of the communities where we set up at, okay? And they're going to be the first in line to hear and talk with, people that are in the communities, okay, that need help, etc. But we'll talk more about that in the reading of the Constitution. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, so the next house we have is the Acumen House, or the Acumen House. Tomato, tomato, however you like. And they will be responsible for interpreting laws and policies for civil and criminal disputes amongst beneficiaries and Moorish community members. Okay, so literally, we are governing ourselves. Okay, we are being set apart from the de facto institutions, and we're taking responsibility of cleaning up our own community. All right, and the reason why we have to do this is because some of our people, despite how much good you try to pour out in the community, despite how much you try to really help our people, we still have some hard-headed, stiff-necked people okay? And unfortunately, they will try to cause harm for those that will actually be walking in a different path, trying to get away from all of the old bullcrap that we've been subjected to, okay? And so we got to protect our beneficiaries from those rogue people that are in our community. All right. So we will have true enforcement officers that will make sure that our people are constantly protected. Okay. We're going to clean up our communities. We got to clean it up. All right. So we're going to clean it up by doing good, and we're going to clean it up by using force where necessary. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't come down to the point where we have to use physical force on our own people and in order to clean up our communities. We're going to use the highest levels of emotional intelligence to refrain from doing that at all costs. But if necessary, like I said, we will operate on that because we're dealing with criminals, okay? And we're going to still be wise and even handling their punishment, if you will. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide.
All right. The other house is what we call the diplomat house. Now, they will be responsible for establishing consular courts, consulates, and ambassadors to establish our nation credentials amongst the various countries of the world. Okay, so they're strictly focusing on making our stance, understanding international law, dealing with procedures, policies, etc., etc. That's going to deal with our reparations. That's going to deal with holding the United States accountable for the breach of trust, along with breach of the international treaties. This is how we go about getting proper reparations, but we need to understand our disposition, and as we go further along and I break down the Declaration of Independence, you would get more understanding on what that is exactly. Okay, next slide. The final house is what we call the merchant house, and this will be responsible for regulating and creating policies to support all enterprises created and invested by Basora Nation. They would also be engaged in business acquisition endeavors, setting up international trade relations for imports and exports with other countries, and developing our own seaports and cargo ships. Okay, so the merchant house is going to make sure that all those presenters who have business ideas and that money is granted, all of that money is going to be granted in trust. We're going to have sound, competent businessmen and women who will be honored to make sure that this flows correctly. Okay, and anyone who don't understand principles of business, they don't have to worry. The nation has a full house called the merchant house that will be dedicated to making sure all of that is sound. Okay, that way everybody business plan is on an upward trajectory and will be solvent at all times. Now, one might think, well, how are we gonna just do this? Like, how is this gonna work? It's such a good idea, but how are we gonna actually start the engine? Well, it's very simple, okay? We start the engine by raising the money, right? We put all our energy together and we raise the money to activate Basora Nation and destroy poverty once and for all, okay? And this blueprint right here is going to be a blueprint for the entire world, right? For those of our people that are in other nations that are going to be able to see the template, see the principles, and be able to mold and shape their own where they are to do the same thing in another country, okay? So, and then when they do that, which would make a more powerful global structure, is that they understand where they got it from, right? So why not partner with those who have helped them, right? And funny thing is, even some of the Gentiles who are struggling, who have a righteous soul, they're going to study this. They're going to adopt the same principles. So the worst thing is that our people do not do what I'm demonstrating, okay? It's very simple. It's just follow the instructions and everything else will take care of itself, all right? Because everything is laid out and we will have fun with this. We will really start to now understand what it's like to rule, okay? You know, a lot of our people, we waiting for, you know, Hamashiach to crack the sky and rule, but no, many of us have not rightly divided the word of truth and don't understand that we're to rule now, and the latter part of everything else comes together. Okay, so When we're ruling, we're not ruling with an iron fist. Okay, that's not how we rule. We rule with intelligence, we rule with wisdom, we rule with love. Okay, and by default, this destroys the enemy. Okay, because he can only feed off of your anti-nature behavior. He can only feed off of low frequency energy. But once you uplift the people and you inform the people, there's nothing that he can do to eat, and he will literally starve and cease to exist by default. Okay? This right here is spiritual warfare. Okay? So, well, how much money do we need to raise? Well, the goal is $100 million. Okay? $100 million is chump change when you understand numbers. Okay? If I did the math right now, just for example's sake. All right, $100 million divided by, let's just say 50,000 people. That's $2,000, okay? $2,000 from 50,000 people will equal $100 million, all right? And what are we gonna do with this $100 million? Some people will be like, oh, that's a lot of money. Is he trying to scam somebody? No, this is not a scam. This is divine, okay? And this right here is what nobody never had the courage to do. But everything happens for a reason and for a season. So that's fine. We're not judging these people. Everything happens for a reason. So what are we going to do with the $100 million? Well, we use this $100 million to get people to come together to execute the trust in motion, okay? We begin by understanding all Moorish communities are impoverished and disenfranchised and is in need of an injection of love and support in the form of a stimulus, okay? The stimulus given to the community will be directly for individuals to receive in the form of various gifts that are vital to their survival. These gifts given to the community need to be given to the people in an unprecedented way like never before. As a result, it will send a shockwave through the community, revitalizing hope and excitement. Okay? The amount of support that is given to that particular community is going to be grand and unprecedented. They're going to not even believe they're actually in reality. It's going to seem like a dream because that's how we're going to do it. Okay? But when we give the stimulus, it would only be a small portion compared to what the true reward has in store. The larger portion of what they will have a chance of getting and benefiting from will obligate them to contribute weekly. This starts the engine of the trust. Okay? So we begin in one city and apply the same principle across all cities, and the rest will be his. So we need to raise $100 million to execute this plan effectively, which will in turn result in prosperity beyond the average person's comprehension. All right? So in essence, what is the $100 million being used for? To literally give to the poor. Basically, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to give it to them in trust, okay? And we're giving it to them in a strategic way that forces them to contribute in order to access the larger portion of the assets, okay? So for example, if I said I wanted to give a family $10 million and that family is like, oh, I love that idea. Oh, yeah, I need this, I need that, I need that. But I say, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you this money, but you have to put in order to get out. All right? And so that's the basic principle. Okay? You have an offer and they have to put in order to get out. All right? And they have to actually also experience something prior to that that will get their attention. So this is how we execute and start the engine of Basur Nation, and why it's going to be loud, and why it's going to be magnetic, and why it's going to be unstoppable, and why it's going to hit every corner of the earth spiritually. United we stand, divided we fall, as you can see. But we start this, we take off as a rocket, and there's no stopping the force. Now, if anyone who is watching this is an expert in various fields, okay, you have the opportunity to be part of something that you may not understand, or perhaps you do have the capacity to understand. So if you have any questions, you can email me at truststore@besoranation.com, and you can visit the website. I encourage you to read every word on the website, okay? Do not leave one word unread. And that is where you can go and donate, and you can contribute one time or weekly. We need to get this rolling as fast as we can. We want to make sure 2025 is our year where we break through the soil and flower and start to grow. And I believe we're going to do this because, like I said, this is divine. I didn't plan on this to be taking place. However, the Most High, undescribable. So on the website, anybody who would like to be a trustee or some form of official, you are to go on the website and to look at trustee opportunity and read the values and understand what you're getting yourself into. And also, when you are understanding everything, you're going to see that we need ideal candidates, okay? People that are experts in particular fields of study and discipline. So the initial trustees, I'm looking for a scholar in law, okay, a lawyer or a law school graduate, and a paralegal, and or a high sophisticated secretary. People with that kind of experience. We also need someone who's familiar with trust, like a trust expert, or have experience in being a trustee of some form of a real trust. No disrespect to those who have private individual trust, but I'm talking about more like a quasi-public trust, if you will. We need someone that is a experienced CPA. We also need someone that is an investor / broker or banker, and we need a real estate expert, right? We also need a software engineer and a social media influencer, okay? And we would need someone who is a political science graduate and or academic scholar, all right? We also going to need a true medical doctor or herbalist and someone like a college professor, okay? So these are the initial people that I am looking for to be appointing as the trustees, and from there everything else will fold out, and we'll talk more about it when I go into describe and review the Constitution itself, and everything is covering all its bases. So with that being said, I really hope that you can see now the bigger picture and see how our people are going to be liberated just by coming together and sticking with a sound plan that ultimately is not going to just be uplifted spiritually, but it's going to make us excited. We're going to have a lot of fun, even through the trials where, you know, we may have people that will try to discourage us. We have the fire of the Most High that's in us, so we don't have to worry about none of that. So let's do it, and that's pretty much it. Like I said, if you have any questions, email me, and if you want to, I don't know, sit down with me in person and you have some form of platform, that's fine too. I will make sure we go through some basic security measures because obviously people don't want to see us win, and this is a righteous way to win, okay? This doesn't harm anybody. This is completely lawful and completely legal, and it's harmless. Maybe harmful for those who can no longer oppress us, but nonetheless, it's harmless. All right, so that's that, and I'll see you in the other video, and we'll go ahead and discuss and read the entire Declaration of Independence and the Constitution itself. With that being said, peace.
We ain't dead no more. Dragons rising from the grave. Come on. Rise. So blow the trumpet, cry out loud. Israelites, it's time to come together. Let's come together, y'all. Hey. Spirit, brighter than a heart, your sanctuary. Save us from evil, down in the valley, Megiddo. The righteous will barely make it. You best to keep it real, you can't fake this. Yahuwah, he's a spirit. You can only please him in truth and spirit. So put on your armor with praises. We honor Yahuwah, Yahuwah. We ain't dead no more. Dry bones rising from the grave. We gon' raise up, we gon' raise up, we gon' raise up, we gon' raise up. So blow the trumpet, cry out loud. Israelites, it's time to come together.
What good can come from the ghetto? Hello, here now, once bound, free from heavy metal. Shackles on my feet, now I'm mashing on the pedal. Chasing the highest calling, that is why I never settle. Our ancestors had affection for heathen nations ill. So they rejected Yah and decided to rebel. So they threw them curses on them. So does that everybody, yet nobody really want us. Scattered the four corners. 400 years for these dry bones alive. Try to navigate slavery with hate on every side. Now that we are alive, gotta let the flesh die. That's prophetic of the day, we take it in the sky. Until the trumpet blow, keep your oil filled. Prayer and meditation, develop like a skill. I speak revival, let the righteous be filled. I speak deliverance, let the sick be healed.
We ain't dead no more.